Hi everyone! Oh, let me see what's going on with my camera. Hold on really quick. Okay, let's see. Hang tight. Hold on, my camera is just out of... Let me just fix it. It's very large. Okay, there we go. I don't know why it went out of focus. Okay. Hi everyone, welcome to Traci Bautista Color Play Week. We are in day 2 and today I am giving you a behind the scenes unveiling. Hold on, I've got like a I've got a bunch of things happening over here. I had a bunch of windows open. Okay, I think we're good now. Today I'm giving you a little behind the scenes peek into how I design and create my handcrafted paint collection. So it is a very in-depth and detailed process, and you might think that making paint is just mixing pigments and binder, but my process is a very involved process that starts with a spark of an idea. And so today we're going to talk about from ideation all the way through the final development, the manufacturing, the shipping, the marketing, and everything that I do when it comes to designing a paint collection. So if you are new here, my name is Traci Bautista. I am a mixed media artist, a designer, an author, an educator, and a paint maker. I have been in the mixed media market for over 2 decades. I've written 3 books, and I have a vast collection of products that I've designed and courses I've taught. I've been teaching for over 20 years and online for about 15 years. So I am thrilled you are here. We are going to talk a lot about color today and this week. If you missed yesterday's live, after this, go back and take a peek at it. I gave a little overview about my pigment bars, which are a beautiful wax paint and mark making tool, and showed a little bit about how to use them. We did some swatching and demoing. And I just talked a little bit about the evolution of that product and how it became one of my best sellers over the last few years. So if you are here live, please say hi. Let us know what you are doing today in the studio. I think some people, I know some schools are off today. Let me just switch to, I cannot see my chat, so let me just move over here. Okay, great. Let's see. Hey, Suze. She said she was on yesterday's chat. No worries. Welcome. Hey, Sandra from Germany. Great to see you. It's been a very long time. Hi, Mitch. Welcome. And thank you so much. They said, I've loved your work for years now. Ah, you're very sweet. Thank you. Yes, I have been around for a very long time. So I'm like one of the OGs in this mixed media world. So, I, like yesterday, I'm going to do a little show and tell, because I could sit here and tell you the story, but I think it would be fun just to talk through the story of how my paint business has evolved over the years and show you the variety of products I've designed. Some of you are new, so you might not have seen any of my previous collections, and I'm gonna kind of show from the beginning. I have a few things that I pulled from my archives, and I am going to show some of the watercolors, some of the inks, some of the newer products like the pigment bars. I did a deep dive yesterday, so if you missed that, definitely go back. Awesome. Sue says, I'm just finishing week 6. Oh, fun. She's referring to my artist style guidebook, Creative Sprint, inside of Ideation Playground, which is my AI and mixed media membership. And I'm going to be sharing more about that next week, and I'll tell you a little bit more. Hey, Mary, she says, she's on a cruise in Europe. That's awesome. Thanks for joining in. That's amazing. Hey, Debbie, she says, hi, Tracy. Thanks, everybody. If you're here live, please say hi. I hope you are enjoying your day. If you're doing any artwork, I would love to know. And if you have any of my collections for handcrafted paints, let me know if you have a favorite one or what your favorite product is to use that I've designed. And I am going to switch to my desktop in a minute, but I launched this part of my business, I should say, with an Instagram post in 2017. I had already been teaching quite a bit for many years. I had written my books already, and so I had been designing lots of products and teaching online. And so I had been making paint for myself over the years, a variety of different formulations, including clay paints, which is one of my favorites, and watercolors. And I started experimenting with inks and then natural inks from the landscape. And I decided one day, after attending the San Francisco Pen Show back in 2017, I had seen all these inks and I was like, oh, I love this. And there was some handcrafted ones, like small batch producers. And I was like, I should create my own. And I decided to post it on Instagram, and that's how Traci Bautista Color was born. There was no business plan. There was no product yet. There was an idea. And with that one post, I sold out of the collection even before I had anything made. So I had to figure out how I was going to make these inks and watercolors in a large batch, well, not super large, but in a larger scale than just for myself. And I needed to figure out packaging and marketing and all the things. And so fast forward 8 years, I just celebrated 8 years of Traci Bautista Color. I have designed a number of amazing mixed media products that many of you have used. I've shipped them all over the world, which is amazing to me. I have customers in Saudi Arabia, in Europe, in Australia, in Canada, in Mexico, in the Philippines, and here all throughout the US. So it has been this amazing journey, and I wanted to kind of lift the curtain and share a little bit about how I design these products. The core framework, or the process that I use, is similar to how I develop a body of work. If I'm painting, if I'm commissioned to do a project, it's what I teach as the framework inside of my Inspiration Sketchbook workshop or online program, inside of my digital canvas programs, and inside of Ideation Playground. So I am going to show you and show and tell you how some of these products have evolved and how they were designed. Many of them were very much experiments in my studio. I, something weird would happen, or like something that I wasn't planning would happen, and it would turn into a product. I had a professor in college who used to say, find something you can do with everything that's left over from whatever you're designing or making. And some of those things have become amazing products, or just like fun little things that I didn't really think that were going to worked. And so it's a big experimentation and play studio in my lab. It's how I approach everything, and I do a lot of research for formulations, and I ask a lot of questions. I'm very curious, and that's how these paint lines were born. So they are all handcrafted by me, and they have been just this amazing body of work that when I look back, I'm like, I can't believe I've designed all of these things, and that many of you are using them daily in your studio, which is the best compliment to me. So thank you. I appreciate all of you. Let's see. Sandra says, I have many inks and like the ink with the glimmer mist. Yeah, so she's like the shimmer inks that I have. So she said she likes those so much. Sue says, I love wax, ink, and watercolors you do, and your stencils that are really busy. Yes, I shared some of those yesterday. We did a little bit of printmaking with stencils and wax yesterday. And she says, I have cut them into pieces. Yes, that's my favorite thing. I love deconstructing the stencils and tearing them apart. Okay, so I am going to attempt to show you my studio table, which is covered with lots of paints and experiments. And actually, before I do that, let me start with a couple of my paint making journals, because this will give you a better sense of then the beginnings of some of these products. So let me just move these before they topple over so I can grab these journals. So one of the things that, let me just start with this. I pulled a couple of these mood boards. I'll have to find the other one over there. So I'll give you a sneak peek for the winter collection too. So yesterday I showed a little flip through of some of these. So my collections start with these mood boards, and they are pulled together from an idea, a phrase, an experience, something I discovered when I was traveling. A lot of my collections are based on travel, and photographs. And so I will pull those ideas and photographs and brainstorm and just write a list of ideas, or it'll just pop into my head one day. I don't pre-plan a collection like 6 months out. It usually happens a week or two before I'm going to launch it. And it's something that has probably like just been kind of sitting there. Sometimes I flip through my photos inside my iPhone, and something will spark, or I might visit a botanical garden, or I might go on a hike, and those experiences end up getting translated into stories, and those stories become the basis of everything that I design for that collection. And so the first part is actually developing the colors or pulling a color palette. And so what I normally do is I take photographs from that I've taken. In the last couple of collections, I've actually worked with AI, because I do a lot of collaborative brainstorming with ChatGPT, and now actually with Notion AI. I do a lot of back and forth, and I will take some of my photographs and import them into some of the AI tools and kind of go back and forth on talking about the idea of the collection. So when I work with a tool like ChatGPT or with Notion AI, I use dictation. So on the desktop, on the Mac, you just have to hit Control button twice, and you can just talk. If you're doing it on your phone, you hit the little microphone button, like your talk to text, and I will just spill out my ideas. Like I will just, for like 5-10 minutes, talk. And then I have the tool, the AI tool that I use. Sometimes it's a custom GPT, sometimes it's using just the actual tool. I have it organize those thoughts and help me brainstorm a little bit deeper into a collection idea or names or color palettes. And then I take those ideas, and then I start to build out these mood boards. And they include photographs. What I'll normally do is bring them either into Procreate or inside a Canva, and I pull the colors, the hues from the pictures that I have taken or that I've created. And then those become the core colors of the color palette. So this one is my most recent. The Woven Her Stories is based on my heritage. And you can see all the different colors here. For the holiday collection, here's the new collection. It's the Luminous Winter Botanicals. And so you see the core colors there. And so I use these as the guide for my paint making. And then once these boards are created, I usually create a large inspiration board of, it's like a foam core, piece of foam core that I keep up in my studio with the mood boards, with photos, with paint swatches. And I leave it hanging in my paint making area in my studio. And I use that as kind of my guide as I'm working. So that's the beginning steps of this collection idea and forming it. It's really thinking about the essence of the theme and then pulling those colors into a cohesive palette, and then taking that idea and then starting to actually gather the pigments. And even before anything is made, I actually pre-sell the collection. There's two things, or a couple things, reasons why I do that. One is I do not like to keep inventory. I like to make the collection and in small batches, and I make it to a number that I've decided. And it also keeps it so that I can sell out those collections. And most of those colors do not come back in my future collections. I don't have like an inventory of standard colors that most paint lines do. Mine are all collection based, and it's what I've done from the beginning. There are a few times when I do anniversary collections where I bring some of the colors back, and in my studio I actually make some of the colors again for myself. And so now I'm going to take you into some of those very first paint experiments, and some of them are inside of these journals. And I have what I call my paint making journals. These are like full of notes, full of swatches that share the history. These are like the markings of each color that I design. And what happens with this is that I don't have recipes. I start with that color palette. It is, I look at the swatch of the color, and then I look at the pigments and the dyes that I have, and then I just mix them. And I look at that swatch and it just kind of comes to me. I always equate it to those being born with like a beautiful singing voice. Like, I definitely cannot sing, but if you give me a color swatch, I can mix it for you in under a minute. And I've been able to do that since I was like in 7th grade. And so these books, they'll have little notes in them about like the pigments that I might use, but not too much as far as recipes. Like sometimes I might put like 2-to-1, whatever that means at the time. I think I have put like, if it's making an ink, I might have like 200 milliliters and 20 milliliters. But now I don't even really record any of the recipes except for the pigments that I use inside of a collection. So like in my latest collections, let's grab one of these journals. These are my newer paint making journals. So I use these big journals to record as I'm making the paint collection. So this is the most current, the Woven Her Stories collection. And you can see these are all the colors that I ended up making inside of this collection. And so it has like just kind of the timeline of how things are made. And I start with one color, and that one color becomes the basis of each of the subsequent colors as I am making the collection. So these books just have so much like information. Sometimes I do sketches in there. There's a bunch of paper in here, so I don't want to things to draw. Sometimes it is drop out of it. Sometimes it is just a bunch of swatches. This was one of my first pigment stones and pigment sticks collection, and those are water soluble, kind of like pastels. And then, you know, there's lots of notes. So I have a number of these swatch journals that I've done and created inside of every paint collection. So these are kind of my paint making records. I take pictures of them also because I don't want to lose any of these. This is like my entire paint business inside these multiple journals that I've created over the years. So I am going to show you now some of the results of all of this play and experiment in my studio, and just kind of give you the backstory as I have developed all of these things. So let me switch to my table, and let's see. Hi, Pila. She said, hi, Traci. Hope you're doing well. Your process is fascinating. Thank you for sharing. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, it is something that I have really developed quite a bit over the years. This is another paint making journal. Let me just move it out of the way. Let's see. So like this was, let's just open this. This was holiday 2020. You can kind of see some of the swatches. So there's lots of just like marks, because as I make the colors, I am swatching them to see if that's the color, the final color. Most of them are, like, I make them in very small batches, and sometimes like I'll write, you know, like my color notes about the collection. This is one of the, what color, what was this? Indigo. Oh yeah, this was 2019. When was this? 2020 maybe? So if you are doing any kind of swatching, I encourage you to keep a swatch journal. These are, you know, things that you can refer to again and again, and they can really give you some insight into your paints and the things that you have. I just realized I don't have my glasses. Hold on. I need them because I cannot see. So enjoy the colorful picture really quick. Okay. So let's look at these. This is actually, and I don't even know if these are still working. These are 3 of my very first colors that I sold for my watercolors, and I put them in these little things. And so this is like 8 years ago. I don't know, they feel kind of hard, but I did put some in these little containers here. Let's see if I can show you. I just want to show you these 2017. So this was the C7. A lot of these had charcoal in them, and they were these beautiful colors that had, here they are. They were like these really intense like colors that had lots of moodiness in them. Really, really pretty. And it was one of the very first collections that I designed. So whenever I create paints, I usually like keep a little sample for me. And so at that time I was putting them in these little vitamin boxes that I found at Daiso. Oh, here, these have the actual labels on them. But these colors I love. There's still a little bit in here. I should swatch these one day. Maybe we'll do a little swatching of them later. But those were some of the very first colors that I made. I had started with kind of like making color like all the other watercolor that's out there. I mean, like just in regular watercolor pans like this. So I had started with kind of these very simple colors. I mean, they were very vibrant and beautiful, but they were one color pans. So these are from some of the first like colors that I created. These are all just my own little archive. And then you start to see some of the multicolor pans underneath there. So before I started creating what you see over here, which were my most popular watercolors, they started in these smaller half pans. And so it was kind of the first of its kind. Like nobody else had been creating watercolors like this. And now I've seen a few other people making multicolored watercolors over the years. And so I also had sourced these really cool clear pans so you could see some of the color inside or on both sides of the pan. So this is the very beginnings. Like this is 2017, 2018 through 2019. I think most of my pans were like this. They were smaller, and they were, I put these fun little metallic flakes on them. Some of them had like little balls of color in the center of them. And then as I started, like I wanted to have a bigger, be able to use like larger brushes. So one of the things I wanted to do was make a larger pan. And that's where these multicolor pans were born. So these are from throughout like the entire, I think I started these at either late 2019 or maybe 2020, Christmas, or no, yeah, late 2019. I can't remember. But these are what my watercolors look like now, before I decided to take a break making watercolors this coming up year. So I just wanted to show you the colorful yumminess of these. They are layered, very layered. There's usually 3 to sometimes up to 5 or 6 colors in them. And some of them have little mica like on top, and some of them have a little bit of metallic flake in them. And those for a long time were my best sellers until I started designing the pigment bars. These take a very long time to make. If you've ever tried to make watercolor yourself, making one color is fine, but when you start to layer things, it just gets a little bit more time consuming. And so from there, I wanted to even work larger. And one of the ways that I thought would be great to do this was to start to put my watercolors on tiles. And now what you see are some of these. Hold on, I put them on my window over here so you can see them, or so I can grab them. So now watercolor is made on a larger tile. So this actually came to be because when I make it in my studio, I work on a big marble slab. And if I'm making paint for myself, I just leave it on this huge tile. And then I was like, well, how can I turn that into a product for my customers? Because I know some of them want to work larger. And then I was like, okay, I want to hunt for tiles. And so then I just started creating all of the paint swatches and paint collections on these larger tiles so that you could use bigger brushes and you have a little mixing area. They definitely, I mean, they're not as travel friendly as these little ones, but you can wrap them up and use them. And then there was some collections that I got very like detailed and wanted to make more of a design. This was the Wild Blooms collection. So all the paint swatches on here were done in like these really fun organic floral shapes. So it became kind of like this art piece in itself. And I wish I also had, I don't have it here, but I had a couple of others for the Monet's Garden collection where I made these big flowers, which were really pretty too. I'd have to go look for pictures. And then this is the most recent, the Woven Her Stories collection. And I really love being able to have the swatches on these kinds of tiles because you can, you know, work with multiple colors at once, and you can also work with larger brushes. So that's kind of the overview of the archive. Oh, and then there's the little tiles, the mini tiles. So, you know, I've got, this was also Wild Bloom, so a little bit of the floral inspired, and some of the Chris Holiday collection, 7 collection, and these are the mini tiles. And this is a lot of paint that's on this little tile. I mean, it'll last for a really long time. And the fun thing about this is that you can use a smaller brush and get like little bits of different colors, but then if you use a larger brush, you can get these really beautiful blends of all of the color that's on the tile. And then from there, I had started to design, well, actually the inks became before my watercolors, and I'm going to show you those in a minute, and then we're going to do some swatching. But from there, let me actually bring out some of the inks so you can see. And I'm going to show you some of the swatch cards that I created for some of these collections, the very first things that I did back in 2017, which is kind of fun to see. Oh, there goes the paint tiles. Let me grab the box of the swatches. This is what we were doing yesterday. Let me just move all these out of here. If you missed yesterday, we did some fun pigment bar swatching. And let's get some of the, hold on, let me find the, little swatch pieces. Okay. And even before I started creating these little swatch tiles, I actually was creating swatch let's see if I think I have some in here. Oh, here they are. So these were some of my dot cards. I had created some like really fancy dot cards back in the day, but I don't see any of them in here. I created some really fun stitched one. Does anybody have those that were like stitched? I just had a lot of fun creating all the little dot cards. And so I have this like little library of these little cards in here. But some of the very first ink collections are these. I used to swatch, and I wish I continued this because I probably did this for 2017 and 2018. And then I didn't create like a swatch card every time. Sometimes I did, but when I was designing. So these were some of my very first water media inks. So it's basically like a liquid watercolor. Some of them are really beautiful. You get like really beautiful chromatography that you get out of the inks. And they are all made in really small batches. And when you add water, I mean, it's so pretty to see what happens when you start playing with them. So I am bringing back the inks. I actually I didn't focus on them for a while, but for 2026, I have a new ink subscription that launched. And if you join, you get access to the first collection is that Luminous Winter Botanicals collection, which is going to be, it'll be shipping in December. So you get this collection, which is, I'm really excited. Let's see. Karen says, what mediums are you using right now? So right now I use everything that I create, watercolor, ink, and wax, mainly a lot of wax. And you'll see some of that here. And the inks and the pigment bars. So again, like here's some of my very first dot cards. So these dot cards became kind of those big swatches that you see Some of them, you know, I would write the actual color name on them. So it's fun to look back through a lot of these. There's so much stuff in here. I'm trying to see if there's like one of those. Doesn't look like it. I was trying to see if I had one of those stitched things. I think it's in one of my journals. I'll have to pull it out for tomorrow, maybe if I can find it. So anyways, I just wanted to show you some of the colors of the inks, and those have developed quite a bit over the years. Some of the inks, let's see, I think I have some of the original, well, there's not much left in some of these, but some of the original inks, they've always had hand painted labels. When I design the inks, I paint the labels. Now the newer ones have a little bit of a different label, but these for many years were every single label was painted. Now I have some that were like this, but then lately, let's see if I can find one. Oh, here. My newer labels have one of my designs on them. I actually painted these florals and then turned it into the labels. So I always am experimenting with packaging also. It's one of my favorite things. So every collection has like a little bit different type of packaging. And it's one of the things that I really pride myself on is having packaging that is recyclable and reusable. So it's one of the core things that I value in my business is having, you know, things that you can continue to use or reuse. So a lot of the packaging you can turn into like journals and stickers for your handmade books. Like I used some of the labels in this accordion book that I designed. The other product I launched, which was probably, I did a couple of variations of these when I first started, but I had a line of these ink sheets that came out last year, ink blends, and these were a lot of fun. These are basically ink and watercolor on a release paper. Let me find one of my, trying to look for one of my brushes so I can swatch this in here. I just used a brush yesterday. We'll just use this one. But this was a very limited edition collection. I only did, I think, three sets of colors for these. But they're meant to be like put in your journal and you could use them on the go. I'm using a triangle brush by Silver Brush. It's one of my favorites to use to make a botanical or a floral. So you get kind of that, both like that watercolor and ink look with these. I may do another like one. I think I'll probably release some of this in the ink collection subscription. We'll see for next year. But I just wanted to show you how that works. And then I also have designed a number of reactive crystals. These come as a little bonus. I never really feature them that much, but they have a reactive dye in them, and you just sprinkle them onto the surface of your paper, and it will start to release the color once the water hits it. So like for this collection, this is the color of the reactive crystals in this one. You drop a few of them onto your surface and you just spritz it with water and let it dry, and then the paint and the ink just kind of moves as you spray it. So this color is what releases when you use the crystals. And I have been designing those as little bonuses. They go inside every collection. So let me show you some of the inks. The inks are by far one of my favorite things because you can also use them inside of dip pens. Let me see if I have a dip pen over here. Some fountain pens, they work awesome in a variety of fountain pens. Let's see. This is very dirty. I'm very messy with my tools. I have to be better with cleaning them. Let's put a little bit of the inks in here. So most of them usually come with a dropper like this. Let's use this one because it has the dropper. It's a little bit easier to use. Put a little bit up here. I don't want it to get too mixed with the purple up there. But you can also use it like right out of the dropper. Like I can draw with it. I'm just going to drop some of it onto my dip pen also. I don't know if you probably can't really see. I'll bring it up there in a minute. I love using dip pens that have like really flexible nibs because I like that kind of variety in the line that you get when you work with one that has a little flex. I definitely have a very heavy hand when it comes to using a fountain pen or a dip pen. So I have to be very careful that I don't break my nib because I do press very hard. So I'm just taking a little bit of water and adding it to the color so I can get a little bit of a wash to come out of the mark making that I did. And I'll bring this up so you can see it a little bit better. One of my favorite brushes, it's a silver ruby satin triangle brush. This is the medium. They have a couple of smaller ones. It's made in a couple of the lines, I think, but you can really get some beautiful florals out of them. So I'm painting inside my accordion swatch book. If you actually purchase any Traci Bautista color product in November, you get bonus free access to this 1.5-hour workshop where we made this accordion folded journal. And then I've been swatching in it yesterday and today, and I'll continue tomorrow just to show you kind of like what my paints and inks do. So I think there's a little bit of purple in there. We're gonna just mix them together. So one of the things I love is to just let my inks and my watercolors dry inside of the palette because you can reactivate them really easily with the water. Let's move this back here so I have a little bit more space. I'm in that little like 12-inch square again. Sandra says, I love the crystals so much. Thank you. Yes, they're a lot of fun. And you never really know what you're going to get until you spray them. Even when I make them, I just kind of mix a couple of different things and I'm like, okay, let's see what happens. And this one, I really love this one. This was part of the Woven Her Stories collection. I'll show you. Do I have a spray bottle in here? Well, I could probably just use a dropper, but the spray bottle works a little bit better. Let's do... So I'm just making a little leaf kind of botanical shape with the brush, so you can see what it does. So this blue, I mixed it with whatever purple was in there, and I'm getting this really deep color. I'm going to do a swatch on just a piece of paper so you can see that too, because the one thing I love about the inks that I make is that they have like such an amazing release of color, so you get to see like the chromatography of the color. Let me grab it. As you add water, I have a little swatch kit that was from my recent collection. So there's a couple ways you can do this. Let me grab a, oh, water's a little dirty, but it's usually best to try and do this when you have clean water. Oh, that's not too bad. So I'm going to do two things. I'm going to show you with just a little wet on wet color. Let's just take some of this and let it kind of flow. So you start to see how it just moves in the water. It's so pretty. And then you can also start with a darker line and then add your water. And this is something that is just, it's so, like, for me, it's meditative, like creating swatch cards. It is a way to just kind of like slow down and enjoy learning about the art supplies that you have. So I'm just going to let that kind of do its thing. But you can see the different colors, or how deep and rich the actual main color is. And then once you start to put water, you can see some of the pigments separate, or some of the colors come out. Let me see if I add, let's add maybe, oh, so some of them, this one doesn't, I don't think, have any. Some of my inks actually have mica in them, and so you need to kind of like shake the bottles a little bit. I'm just going to drop some of the color in here. While it's wet. Let's see. Let me see if I have the new color somewhere. I'm just going to let that kind of move around. I designed a really pretty, this one's one of them, but that's not the color I want. There's more of a goldish. This is more bronze. That one's gonna, I don't think that's gonna mix very well. Not that. Where's the third color? Well, let's see if I have another one that has a little bit more mica over here. Or just another blue. I'm gonna add another blue in here. Not much left in this one. This one's a little bit more, got like a little more turquoise color in it. Let's go and just add a little dot of water to move it around a little bit more. So we'll let that kind of sit. You can also take, if you have my watercolors, let's use one that has a little bit more mica in it, so it's a little more shimmery, so it'll show up in here a little better. Let's see, this is a purple. Some of these are have, you know, like, I don't know what year I did this, but all of them, even when they've been sitting for a really long time, they re-wet very, very quickly. I just want to add like a little thing of mica in here. put it on another piece of paper. Let's do, I know, let's do a little, I'm going to do a little bit like that, and then I'm just going to take a couple of these and drop them on here. Even though that's a darker color, it'll mix with it, but we'll do, I'm going to drop some over here. Let me see if I have a spray bottle sitting here. I thought I did. If not, I'll just use a dropper and drop some water on there so you can see the colors release. You can start to see it a little bit, but it definitely works better when you spray the water. Yeah, that's not as fun because it spreads a little bit more. Yeah, I don't see my spray bottle. There's one somewhere. But we'll let that sit, and then it's definitely pulling some of that purpley color. But you can start to see all of the different color. Look at that blue. It's like fluorescent around the edge of it. Okay. Let's move this somewhere where it doesn't. Well, actually, you know what I'm going to do? Oh, yeah. Let me just set that there. I'm going to bring my swatch book back and show you a couple more things that I've done and created. So some of you are familiar with my pigment stones and pigment sticks. These are water soluble, and you can use them like a pastel, and you can use them like a watercolor. And these I designed back in 2020, I think 2021 and 2022. And then I took a little break from making them. These are a lot of fun. They just are also a lot of work. Where's my swatch book? I'll show you what they look like. So let's go over here. Let this one dry. Let me move this out of the way. And so what you can do with these is you can actually color like so. So it's almost like a pastel. They move quite a bit and they act like a pastel. So you'll see some of that pigment kind of like come off of it. And then you can also take them and let me grab a longer one so I can actually dip it in the water. You can dip it in the water and then draw with them like so. Oops. And you can also just use your brush with the stones also. So like I can take a little of this and paint it onto the paper. I'll bring it up to the camera in a minute. But you can see, you can get like these beautiful lines, lots of mark making. I'm just bringing water into it so you can kind of see what they do. And then when the paper is wet like that too, you can actually just like draw right into the wet paper, and then you get these really beautiful marks. But it is like pastel where it just gets, you know, like look at my fingers, they're getting really covered. I need a piece of paper. So with this, I would spray like Spectrafix on it to fix it, or I would use a matte medium, like super matte medium. You could also use Collage Page if you had Collage Page. I'm just getting a little water on my towel so that I can clean my fingers off. Okay, So let's see. I showed the inks, the watercolors. I decided to take a break from manufacturing watercolors for this next year because I wanted to focus on my wax products and my inks. So the last collection for a while will be my Luminous Winter Botanical. So if you wanted to collect my watercolors, this is your last chance. This is the color palette for this coming up. This will be shipped in December, right before the holidays. And there is a tile in that box. And I may be... Oh, hi. Indy came back. She just stepped on deli paper. I may be doing something special coming up for that. We'll see. I'm going to... I will let you know. So let me see. Does anybody have questions? I am going to come back to, if you weren't here yesterday, let me just show you also. I showed the new pigment bars collection. And so we did a little bit of swatching with the pigment bars yesterday and talked a little bit about like my wax products and how they work and how they were developed. So if you missed that, definitely go back and watch. I am going to be talking more about the new Swatch journal, quarterly Swatch journal that I will be launching during Black Friday, Cyber Monday week. So that will be tomorrow. I just thought I'd do a quick swatching so you could see some of the beautiful colors in this collection. And they are beautiful. You could do watercolor resist with them. You can do some really beautiful printmaking. You can paint with them heated, and you get these really dark, opaque colors. And you can also use them with a variety of mixed media, like, let's see if I have, do I have a little Stabilo woody pencil somewhere? You can use them with pan pastels. Where are all of my pencils? I was looking for my ink. And some of my drawing and Derwent drawing. So you can use different mixed media right in them. This is an Inktense pencil. I'm going to dip it in water. And so water and wax usually don't really mix, but you can color right on top of them like that. Let me bring this up so you can see it a little bit better. So you can do some fun mark making with a variety of mixed media pencils and colored pencils, especially if they are wax-based color pencils. They work great with the pigment bars. So these swatch journals I use kind of as testers like this, where I may take some of the, this is a watercolor pencil, some of the swatching that I'm doing and just use these as like the test areas just to see how some of these work together. This is a Derwent watercolor, Prussian blue. It's really pretty, but it blends really well with my water-based products. I could take my brush into some of the watercolor also, and then just see how they blend, how vibrant that color is. I don't know what collection that was from, but it's a beautiful purple. One of my favorite brushes by Silver Brush. So, I mean, this is just a mess, but it's okay. I would probably actually come in with a little bit of, because that's so wet. You can also experiment with like your favorite acrylic paint. I'm just going to put a little dot of titanium white on there just so you can see. Let me get a brush that I can, actually, let's use this little scraper. All my brushes that I have up here for watercolor, I don't want to use them with the acrylic. But using the golden titanium white will help like set some of this color in for like the pastels, and gives you like a little nice tint of the color, which is nice. So I mixed it just with a little bit of my watercolor and with some of the ink that's there. Oh no, this was actually the Derwent watercolor. So I like to do this sometimes so I can create some interesting like textured backgrounds. So then when this dries, I can like do more mark making on top of it. This would be a great base for the pigment bars. You can put the pigment bars over acrylic. If you put acrylic over the pigment bars, it will act as a resist, but you can use it as underneath. Like I love to use golden super matte medium. So I'm doing this also because I don't want that pigment to get all over the other side of the paper. So I just covered it all. I can mark make over the top again. So now I have like a little bit of that color coming through. And then I can do more work over it when it dries. So the nice thing about that is now it's gonna give me more of a matte finish versus like that satiny kind of shiny acrylic finish. And that's one of the reasons I love mixing matte medium into my acrylic paints, because I don't like that shininess. I like more of a matte look. Okay, let me come back and say hi to you all. So thank you everyone for joining me, and if you're here live, I hope you got a good idea of like how my collections are created. I actually forgot, I didn't talk too much about the marketing and the fulfillment, and there is everything I talked about here was like more of the design, but there is such a process. So that's why it takes like a whole quarter. I normally design the collection after I've pre-sold the collection, just so that I know how much paint I need to make. And then there is a bunch of stuff on the back end, like working with Shopify, uploading the products and writing a little bit more about the description of the product. So I do that. In my first pass, I actually write it, and then I have AI, because I have a custom GPT that knows my business. I have it edit my descriptions and edit my emails, and then I do all of the work to get everything into the different software that I use. And then there is the packaging and sourcing and shipping. I have help when it comes to packaging and shipping, but everything else is me. And it has been this amazing journey, like I said before. And I have some other behind the scenes videos here on YouTube if you want to look at those. And tomorrow we are going to talk about swatch journals and creating this practice of swatching, because it's such a great way to learn your materials and learn processes, explore techniques. So I look forward to having you join me. You can join me right here in YouTube Live. If you are on my email list, you have a bonus. And if you want to join my email list, if you go to TraciBautistaColor.com, right on the homepage, you can join the email list. And I will be giving access to a fun digital download at the end of this next week. And if you're on my email list, you'll get access to that. So you can also watch the replays in the Play Week page that's linked inside of your emails, so you can go back and watch all of the replays, or you can watch them here in the YouTube live. Okay, everybody, thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed that, and thank you so much for those of you who are collectors and who have been collecting my handcrafted paints and inks over the years. I am truly grateful. Okay, everybody, have a great rest of your day. I will see you in our next live session.